Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sign Your Own Permission Slip podcast. I'm your host, Anna Fishman, and we have a great, amazing new guest today. Her name is Sarah, and Sarah Shenan. Am I saying this correct?
Sinan. Sinan.
Sinan. See, I completely did not pronounce this correctly, but I think you'll forgive me
For sure.
because we never introduce ourselves with like their first and last name. Just like, hey, I'm Anna. Hey, I'm Sarah. So that makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah.
Forgive me about Forgive me for butchering your last name, but we have Sarah, and we'll talk about more things than just our last names. Sarah is a coach. Sarah has a very interesting life story, and we just connected. I think we are kindred souls. We connected at one of the networking events several months ago, and I was like, I need to have Sarah on my podcast and share her story. So, without further ado, the topic today is permission to rewrite the rules.
Mhm.
And would like to give the floor to Sarah to tell us her story and to introduce herself a little bit.
Yeah. So I'm Sarah Sinan, and I'm a life and leadership coach. I've been doing this for 9-ish years, but before this, I followed all the rules that society gave. So I went to Rutgers University, and before I graduated, I said, okay, I don't want to move home. So what do I need to do in order to get a job? Right away. So I started interviewing like crazy senior year, and I got a job offer from Target. And I was like, okay, check, get the job so I don't have to go home. So that was like the first like rule I satisfied. And then I started at Target. I was an assistant store manager, and then I got promoted after 2 years to do human resources, another check. And then after a year and a half, I got promoted to be a store manager, which I was one of the younger store managers. So it was like three checks, all these rules I followed. So I'm doing what I should be doing. I'm following the rules for when it comes to career. And I did that role. And then I went on to take a bigger store down in Philadelphia. So again, a bunch more checks and more rules that were being followed. And then it was about my early 30s that I realized I was down in Philly for 2.5 years at that point. I said, oh, wow, this doesn't feel good. I've been following all the rules, but this just does not feel good at all. I was over 300 pounds, so I was physically uncomfortable. I was far from friends and family. I wasn't able to do the things that I wanted to do on a regular basis. The only thing, ironically, having this conversation with you as a travel agent, the only time I felt really alive was when I was getting my hair done, because I would every 4 weeks I traveled, and I was blonde at the time. So to do the roots and everything, my team knew, do not reach out to Sarah on those days. And then when I traveled, I would travel a lot, and it was like I was using it as an escape, and I would scramble my password. But I kept thinking, this was 2014. This is not a sustainable way to be. So what do I do? Because I followed the rules, and I was like, wait, do I change the rules? Do I write my own rules? What does that look like? So I stayed really stuck. Long story short, I ended up moving back to North Jersey, and I thought, okay, this is a gift for me. So what do I want to do with this? So I started to really focus on my health. I started to focus on my time and really not working all the time, because I was working a ton when I was in Philly. And I started to lose weight. I started to feel better because I had more time. And then I said, okay, I'm tolerating this job that I worked so hard to get to the top of. And I was like, this doesn't even feel good. I don't get to do what I love, which I love helping people. I love helping people get out of their own way. I can say I love helping people make their own rules. But I was following this rule book, and I was like, how do I get to do what I love and not tolerate 98% of the job? Because it paid well, but it wasn't great. So I started to do some soul searching, found coaching, and I got my certification for 3 years, worked at Target, and then did the coaching on the side. And then in 2019, I left, and I'm doing this now full time. And I really do get to help people write their own rules and figure out, okay, what rules do they want to let go of, and where do they like what rules actually work, and then build their life around that.
That's amazing. Can I ask you, I'm very curious about you said 3 years to become a life coach, and I was like, wow, that's a long time. Because we hear all the time every other person is a travel agent and every other person is a life coach. And it's like, okay, typically like kids don't grow up like I want to be a travel agent when I grow up, or I want to be a life. So I'm sure there's a lot of skepticism. I'm sure there are a lot of phony and fake coaches. But like when you said like 3 years, I was like, wow. I mean, I know you, so I know you're a real deal, but like
Yeah.
that's a great testament to the commitment. And it's
Yeah. Well, that was 3 years to get the business going. The certification, and that wasn't including the certification time because that was beforehand. It
okay.
took about 9 months to get certified.
Okay.
So, coaching, I love that you asked this, because I think coaching is not a regulated industry. I don't know if travel agents are a regulated industry,
Not
which
much.
that I wish it was regulated, because anybody can call themselves a coach. And it's like,
Okay.
okay, what training do you have? Do you
Yeah.
have like, can you hold space for people? Because people come and they tell me stuff like
Yeah.
deep stuff. And
Yeah.
like, I take it very responsibly. So I went through a program that is actually underneath the governing body. So even though coaching isn't a regulated industry, there's, and I don't want to bore you and your audience with this, but very high level overview, there is the International Coach Federation, and they say, okay, what's ethical, what's not ethical. And then they say certain programs to get your coach certification are, under this. And that's not the weekend, because there's so many that like $39 you can become a coach after 12 virtual hours. That was not this. It was 9 months in person, a lot of hands on. And if this were to ever become a regulated industry, I would then have the credentials to say, yes, I'm
Yeah.
under the governing body. So, and then I did 3 years after I got the certification to say, okay, I want to build a business, because it's not just, I wish it was a little easier, but as an entrepreneur, you got to do some things to get the business established. And I learned that in 2016.
Well, even though it wasn't 3 years, but it was 9 months, it's still a long commitment.
It
Yeah,
is.
travel is not very regulated. Anyone can call themselves a travel agent. I even hate the term travel agent, but that's a whole separate episode. We can
Yes.
talk about that another time. But like I was one of those skeptical people. I'm like, oh yeah, coach, schmoach, whatever.
Yeah.
But I now work with two different coaches.
Mhm.
And it is incredible how much they have helped me, how
Yeah.
much they have shown me the way that I didn't know existed. Sorry, my hair is like
So
somewhere. I don't know if it's my scarf. I'm not a scarf person, but I was freezing. So like now I'm
it's cold right now.
it's
Yes.
cold. It's like it was 6 degrees this morning. This is
Yeah.
January. I'm sure people
Yeah.
are like will be watching this in like July and they're like, what?
Yes.
But all the things we're talking about are very evergreen. It doesn't matter when you're watching this. So anyway, I was one of those people who was very skeptical about the whole coaching thing. And when I started working with my first coach and now my second coach, and people are like, why would you need two coaches? They're like, we're touching on completely different things. One is more life coach and one is more business coach. But it's incredible how much help and support I receive from them. Because I'm an entrepreneur. I'm sitting in my office by myself all day long. Yes, I have a team. Yes, I have a business partner, but it's very lonely. And a lot of times, like, we are people. My business is not separate from me. I am the business.
Yes.
I am the person. And if my kids are sick, or if something's going on with my parents, or if I had a fight with my husband, that all affects my business. So it's not like, oh, I can just, put the business hat on and not like the inside of me deals with all of those things. So having someone who understands kind of how to navigate these things because a lot of
Yes.
times we're not taught how to do.
No. Not taught at all. And I think that's where coaching can really help. I have a client who I work with, and then she also works with a real estate coach. So she's got both. And she said something one day, and it really struck me. She's like, I work with a real estate coach because I'm in real estate and I want somebody who knows where I've walked and like
Yeah,
they're an expert. And I thought, well, I'm not a life expert because I'm still a
yeah,
human. But I really do think I'm an expert at understanding mindset and the energy that we might go into that might trip us up or really help us. And
yeah,
that's what I help my clients. I help them, like I hold up the mirror, I offer a different reflection on like what's really going on here and how true is it? Because I mean, how often we think the stories that we make up are the
yeah,
truth, and oh my, they're not.
yeah,
We're very good storytellers, but sometimes we need that like opportunity to sit with somebody. I have a coach, and my coach holds up the mirror for me where I'm like, I get trapped in something, and it's like, how true is that? Oh, wait, it's not true at all.
yeah.
Okay, now I see the whole situation differently. And sometimes we need that objective point of view. And I'm grateful that I get to offer that to my clients.
100%. It is so true. Sometimes, even when I call my friend who works with me, who's my right hand, and I just like say out loud the things that I was ha like, I just called her like, to like catch her up on the call that I had before. And as I was telling her what I was having that call about, something I was like, oh, I called you to like tell you about this and ask you something, but I already know the answer because just saying it out loud. So maybe, maybe we all need, not maybe, we for sure all need that other person that my
Oh,
husband
yeah.
is great, but he can only listen to my business stuff like so much.
Yeah, but the other thing too is our spouses, they're tied to the outcome, right? They are very tied to the outcome. So it's very hard for them to be objective. So that's not even a fair expectation to have
Yeah.
of them, right? So like
Yeah.
that makes sense. And then I've had people who come to me that their companies pay for their coaching. And they're like, I'm not quite so sure. And then at the
Yeah.
end, oh my God, this was great. It was just, you helped me facilitate a conversation with myself, is what they would tell me.
Yeah.
Because it's like that verbal processing. If somebody is a verbal processor, sometimes hearing your voice say something really helps, and then it can be rearranged. So, yes.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think like my poor husband can only hear so much about my next idea for women's small group trips. He's like, uh-huh. And when am I gonna participate in these trips? Like, well, when I sell this group trip, I'll take you on
Yes.
vacation. But I love the whole topic, and we chatted before I started recording about rewriting the rules. And I want to go back to this because I know we can digress and talk about
Yes.
coaching and husbands and everything in between. Um, how important it is for women to rewrite the rules because we're so stuck. Unfortunately, yes, it's 2025, but I sometimes I feel like, is this really 21st century?
Yeah.
We're so stuck in the old norms and rules and expectations of the society and things that we have to do. Like, I'm
Mhm.
sure you come across these things. I'm sure people come to you all the time. Like, can you share a few things of like,
Yeah.
in that vein?
Yeah. I mean, I think first of all, let's not demonize rules. Rules keep things going. And I think rules sometimes make things really comfortable. And like we want to have rules of engagement and rules like to follow certain things because guidelines, right? And that makes people feel very comfortable to have them. So I think that, yes, we need laws. We need different rules. We needed a start time for this. And that in
Yeah.
some ways is a rule. Like we were
Right.
both here at 2 o'clock. So I think that when we think about rules, yes, there's a time and a place for them, but I think sometimes we might cling to them a little bit more. And then we all want control. Every single human being on this earth wants control. So then the rules might be, how can we make a rule,
Yeah.
rulify life? So that becomes where we can trip ourselves up. But then the other thing is, society does give us a lot of rules that are like insidious, and we don't even realize it's the air we breathe. That it's like, oh wait, where did this come from? So that's society, and then even just different cultures. I had a client just this morning and we were talking about just rules and the way that rules show up. And different cultures have rules, whether we like it or not, and different norms. And
Yep.
sometimes we adapt that because it's like, wait, I am a good person if I follow X, Y, and Z, because we heard it every day of our lives. And breaking that down and saying, no, I'm going to write my own rule book can be really hard, but it's also incredibly freeing to say, wait, this matter says who?
Yeah.
Why does this matter? Because the other interesting thing when it comes to rules, if we take 5 people and say, okay, what's a rule that you would live, breathe, and die by? They might have 5 different rules, and
Yeah.
not everybody's going to agree. So who says that the rules make sense? So it's like really choosing your own rules that matter for you.
Yeah. And we need to have rules to know when we can break them. Funny
Yes.
enough, in my previous life, my corporate life, I was
Mm-hmm.
a process and compliance manager. It was my job to come up with rules and to implement the rules.
Yes.
They used to call me the sheriff because that was like, but also I used to preach that like, yes, we need all these rules. Not necessarily we're gonna follow them 10 out of 10 times, but if we
Right.
know what the rule is there, like we know like, okay, this is the situation to break the rule. I think for women in general, there are way too many societal rules. There are way too many expectations, way too many things that we're kind of like, it's the status quo. We've been doing this for the last 100 years, so let's continue doing this.
Yeah.
See, verbal processor. As I'm
Yeah.
telling you this, I remember this funny story that happened to me personally about
Mhm.
the rules. So I got married when I just started my MBA program. And I was like, you know what? I am not going to change my name right away, like at the wedding or whatever, like as you get married, because I was so afraid they're gonna mess up all my records in school. Because I started with my maiden name, and then like 2 months later, I was like, yeah, this is not gonna happen. So I waited till I got my degree, got my diploma. So okay, now I'm gonna start the process of changing the name. Oh my God. There was a pile of papers this big. I had to file all kinds of things, fill out two things that were so absurd. One thing was I had to put a ad in the local newspaper. I don't even think my town has a newspaper. I had to put an ad in the local newspaper and let it be there for like circulate for a month that I am changing my name because this goes back to the rule from like 1800s when people change their names to avoid paying back the money that they owed. So if I'm Anna Fishman and I become Anna Senan, like then I don't owe because
My
Anna Fishman
gosh.
owes them. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And then the second thing was I literally had to, oh, sorry, what happened here?
It flipped.
It's my somehow, see, this is what happens when technology gets too much. too much. Sorry about that.
Very.
Sorry. Somehow my phone camera that's connected to my computer decided to turn off.
Oh, interesting. Oh,
Anyway,
good. We're here.
the second thing is I had to go, I would have had to go and stand in front of a judge and tell them like I have no convictions, I don't owe money to. I'm like, are you kidding me? No.
Yeah.
I took that pile of papers, I threw them in the garbage, and I kept my maiden name.
Yeah. But I mean, just that story, I mean, is exemplifying a couple of things. Like here you are in your MBA, it's so important to you, and you don't want to lose that like ground that you made up.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, the fear, right? Okay, I'll wait. And then when you go and do the rules, you realize the rules are outdated. Like they made
Yeah.
sense 200 years before. How often do we do that as women, where we're following rules, and then when we really think about it, where did this rule come from?
Yeah.
And then we're like so stuck to it because it's
Yeah.
safe in air quotes, but how safe is it really, and does it really make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so true. I talk to women all day, every day, because for some new listeners, they don't know that like my main business is not this podcast as much as I love doing the podcast, and it's a little bit of a self-indulgence, and I have amazing women that I interview, like Sarah. But my main business is small group travel for women, and when we do these group trips, I talk to a lot of women, 40 plus, 50 plus, 60, 70 plus. And a lot of them, women in their second part of life and this age, tell me, I've never traveled alone. Like my husband never like let me take a trip by myself, or like I don't know how to like navigate the airport. And that like breaks my heart. I'm like, how are you in your 50s or 60s, never had a chance to
Yeah.
explore yourself and like travel? But I mean, I love my kids, I love my husband, I travel with them, but like when I go, just Anna, like that makes me remember like who
Mhm.
Anna is, because as a mom and a business owner and a busy like 21st century woman, I am so busy. I don't know who Anna is anymore.
Right. Right. And I think that's really like this. There's a rule that seems to have been adopted is like, self-care is selfish. Like, don't be
Yeah,
selfish, take care of everybody else. But when we take care of ourselves, we can better take care of other people. Right. I remember you saying, I think on a previous episode,
yeah,
when you travel, you're a better mom, you're a
yeah,
better wife. And I think somehow society has made us believe in this rule of no, 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 take care, take care, take care. And yes, I am so of service, and I believe we should take care. We're all connected as people, and we can take care of ourselves. Like
yeah.
it's okay to take it. It's not selfish at all, and it's a silly rule. I don't know who it benefits, but it doesn't benefit women to buy into that. Yeah.
I've been leaning into this break the rules mentality over the last couple of years. See, my camera breaks, my voice breaks. Um, because I was doing a lot of things, like I'm by nature a people pleaser, so I was doing a lot of things to please other people because that's the rule, that's the tradition, that's the way to do it, that's the way we've been always doing it. I'm like, maybe it's time to question this. Maybe it doesn't serve us anymore. Maybe like there's no need for this anymore. And as hard as it is to do it first time, or like to give yourself permission to do it the first time, then when you do it over and over, it's kind of like it becomes a muscle memory in a way. But also like when I reflect back and I was like, yeah, it sucked to like do it the first time, but the long-term effect is so much like I'm so much happier and so much calmer.
Yes. Yeah. And it can be uncomfortable at first because it's different than the norm. A rule
Yeah.
is a norm.
Yeah.
So when we're breaking a norm, that's not always comfortable because it's like, oh, wait, is that going to affect relationships? Is
Yeah.
that going to affect acceptance? And that's what we want. We want control. We want acceptance. We want love. All human beings are hardwired to want that.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm gonna put you on the spot for a second. I hope you
Yeah.
don't mind.
No, have
Have you broken any rules lately?
I broken any rules lately? I am a rule follower, which is funny. But I always say it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. So I feel
Yeah.
like sometimes I'm trying to think if I overtly broken a rule. I don't know that I've broken, I can't think of any, but I do think sometimes when I think about like my life and the way my life is structured,
Yeah.
I do know that I break a lot of norms. Like I have really structured my life in a way, and this might sounds almost like frivolous to say, and like
Yeah.
that's me buying into the norms. But like I make it that I start with my clients at a time of day that I don't have to set an alarm because I don't want to have to wake up to an alarm. I don't want to have to work outside. People are like, "Oh, do you have an office?" No, I have an office in my home, and I love this space. I live by myself. It's just me and my 14-pound dog, but I have a cleaning lady that comes to the house. And
Yeah.
like a lot of people are like, wait, what? And that's breaking norms. So I don't know if it's necessarily breaking rules. Maybe it's a set of
Yeah.
rules, but I do that and it feels good. Those are things that allow me to show up for the people in my life and my clients in ways that feel really good. And so I'm breaking those norms. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
No, it does. And it's very much breaking the rules because who said the rule has to be like this or that? Like,
yeah.
you're doing something that's a little bit out of your comfort zone. Maybe it's something you've never done before,
Mhm.
but you're doing it differently than maybe generations before you did, and it
Yeah.
makes sense for you.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. I've been trying to do things like that for a long time, but always kind of like holding myself back.
Yeah.
But then when you do it, you're like, oh my God, I can do this. This is great. Why did I not do this before?
Yeah, no, I mean, even when I think about like that first summer when I left Target in 2019, I didn't do some of these things. I was like, I need to early to wake, early to rise, and all the different quotes. What is it?
Yeah.
Early to rise and early to bed, early to rise, and then you get the early bird worm,
Or
whatever.
the bird gets the worm. Yeah.
All the things that they said. And then, like, I was like, I can't pay for a cleaning lady. I have more
Yeah.
free time. Who says? Like
Yeah.
I start to think like who says? And I ask myself that often whenever I tell myself, no, you can, or yes, you should. I'm like, but who says?
Yeah.
Who says? And then sometimes I'm like, oh, nobody. Like it's a faceless. And I think sometimes that could be like a really good gut check for anybody watching this now. Who says? And if it's faceless or something you heard over and over again in your family, it
Yeah.
might be time to rethink it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Like I love how you said, is that true? My coach uses that question a lot. Like sometimes I'll call her, I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. She's like, is that true? I'm like, no. I
Yeah,
mean, it's true because it's happening, but like in my head, it's true, but it doesn't have to be true. Like this is somebody
exactly.
else's perception or like somebody else's view of the situation doesn't have to be true. And that like
Yeah,
stops me and like gives me like a fresh breath of air to like
yeah.
review that situation.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I want for people who are listening to this podcast, regardless if you're a man or woman or whatever you identify as, this is not about that. This is about giving yourself permission to like follow your heart, to listen to what's true for you, to let go of things that maybe don't serve you anymore, maybe things that you're not excited about anymore, maybe that you just like, following the motions, you're like in this momentum of like doing this not the momentum, but the word I'm looking for. See, I can't do the words today. Like I cannot do the words. um when you're kind of inertia, that's the word I was looking for. When you're in this inertia, you're just like doing things because you've always done them. Like you've always cleaned your own bathroom, so you continue cleaning your bathroom. Sarah and I want to encourage you, if you hate cleaning your own bathroom, put $5 in that piggy bank every day, and by the end of the month, you'll have enough money to get yourself a cleaning lady. And the mental load that you will take off your shoulders by not having to, it's not even the like the dirt and the disgusting parts of the clean. It's like I think you'll kind of like give yourself permission to do something you've never done. You'll step to the next version of you. Okay, I'm done. I'm getting off my soapbox here.
Yeah, no, but I think you're bringing up a really good point. When we start to think about, okay, wait, where's the rule? What do I really want instead? Then you free up headspace,
Yeah,
where it's like I had a client actually about a cleaning lady like earlier today, different client, but
yeah,
they had all this guilt because they got a cleaning lady as a gift for Christmas. But then they were like, wait, and now what do I do as I walk into the rooms? And it was like all this extra space because she
yeah,
realized how much she thought about. I
yeah,
gotta clean this, I gotta mop, I gotta do this. And I used to do that too. Oh gosh, I have to, more shoulds because we
yeah,
should all over ourselves. But it's like, no, like when you actually get, it's not just about the house being clean, but the energy you're giving back because
yeah.
it's more headspace and you give yourself that space.
To give that space.
Yeah.
I even went, this was already almost over a year ago. I went even step further and I got myself I'm not gonna call her a cooking lady, but I have a woman who comes once a week and helps me with the meal prep.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had cleaning lady probably for the last 15 years. I got over that. Like that was like, oh, no big deal.
Yep.
Because like I'm a professional now. Like I don't need to clean my own toilets. Again, it wasn't about like I'm above this. It was just like I
Yeah.
hate cleaning. I can do laundry all day long. I can cook all day long, but cleaning I just hate it. And I love cooking. So like I always like, oh, I'm gonna cook, I'm gonna cook. But then I realized now with two kids, I've been cooking every day for like half a day. I
Yeah.
cannot take 3, 4 hours a day out of my business to cook. And I was stressed every day at like 3, 4 p.m. I would start to stress out. What are we having for dinner? Like the amount of time, energy, and the amount of money we wasted on takeout and not great quality of food. someone said, why don't you get someone to come and help you with the food? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, what am I, Oprah? Like, what do you mean I'm gonna have someone come? Like, it's
Yeah.
that mentality. Like, no, I cannot help. Like, I was embarrassed. I was like, no, and then I kind of like got over it. And when somebody recommended this woman, she's not a chef. She's just like semi-retired mom who cooks, who oh
Hmm.
my God, she's been godsend because I don't like I make a list of what I want her to cook. I'll buy the groceries, but then I have the 3 to 4 hours a day back
Hmm.
to my mental space, to work, to start a podcast, to spend time with my kids. And yes, it still costs me money to pay her,
Right.
but it's so like the mental load off my shoulders is so worth the money I'm spending. And then
Yes.
I know what she cooks. I know what produce she uses because I buy it. So it's like all a win-win versus getting the takeout every night. That's insanely
Right.
expensive.
Yeah. And I think like this is, first of all, I told my best friend that you do that, and she's like, that's genius. And she's looking for her own version of that. Right.
That's amazing.
It really is because she's got two kids that she's figuring out. But I think, me and you were talking about like the cleaning lady as a single woman,
Yeah.
having the cooking lady, you're a mom who works from home. And it's like those rules like
Yeah.
that you're not supposed to follow. And we're talking about things that cost money, but
Yeah.
we can see it there. But it's also giving us back headspace. So it is an exchange. But this could also be true for things that don't cost money. The
Yeah.
rules that we take on around like women shouldn't travel solo. Do it responsibly because the world can sometimes be crazy, right? But like, or moms shouldn't travel without their kids. That's a rule. Says who? Or just even like the rule of like, you should say yes all the time. Like
Yeah.
really thinking about some of those rules and like, what are the benefits? Who benefits from having it? And
Yeah.
then what would it look like without following that rule? What's possible? And see just what comes up.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like who came up with that rule? And especially as a business owner, like we get like I love your rule of not t waking up to an alarm. If I didn't have to take kids to school, I would do that. But
Yeah.
I also have a rule or whatever, like they're my process. I don't do calls before 11 o'clock because
Yeah.
I function on half a brain before 11 o'clock. I'm not a
Yeah.
morning person. So I'm like, why am I forcing myself? Like I'm stressed out. Also, like in the morning, I want to run to the gym. I want to pick up groceries. I don't
Yeah.
want to like wake up and having like a call at 9 o'clock and then
Mhm.
like that derails. So like that's another thing. Like you need to know yourself. You need to understand like what makes it work for you. Because I have a friend who's a very high level professional. She has like 5,000 people reporting to her. And guess what? She cleans her own home. She loves to clean. She just
Yeah.
loves to clean. It's her mental detox. She puts on music, she puts on a podcast, and that's her thing. So who says, oh, if you're like super CEO, like C-suite executive, you have to have a cleaning lady? No. Like it
Mhm.
goes both ways. She's like,
Yeah.
clean. I'm gonna do my own cleaning. If she's a morning person, if she's watching, if she's listening to this, she's gonna be like, I know she's talking about me. Wakes up at 5 a.m., does her yoga, her meditation, and then starts like moving her fridge to see what dust is behind there to clean.
Yeah. And it's
Because
just finding what works. And I think that's the other thing that works for her. And somebody else might be like, oh, no, you shouldn't. Says who? Again, it goes back to that says who
yeah,
question.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love if guys, if you girls, if you're listening to this, if one takeaway you can get from this is when you tell yourself that you should or shouldn't do something, ask yourself, says who?
Yeah.
Maybe that could be like one takeaway. Well,
Yeah.
Sarah, thank you so much for your time. This has been great. If our listeners want to continue the conversation with you, can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, Sarah Wahiba Sanan, so Sareh Wahiba Wahiba Sanan Senan. It's long. And that's my Instagram handle, and then I'm also on LinkedIn with the same name, and then my website is sarahwahibasanan.com. And if anybody wants to get little love notes from me, I send out weekly emails, and it's right on that homepage when you get there.
Awesome. And we'll put all the links in the show notes so you guys can always pause this, take a screenshot, or even head to YouTube to grab the links. And remember to rewrite your own rules because no one else is going to do it for you.
We're also going to do it. Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah. This has been great.
All right, thank you.